the Why podcast.
where we discuss mindful learning in the virtual space.
So happy to have our special guest and elite educator, Jeff Neu. Jeff, I reached out to a friend and colleague to kind of get a picture of you as an educator, and this is what she shared with us. Jeff is an innovator. He brings incredible energy and curiosity to our homeschool team. He's always enthusiastically learning something new and looking for creative ways to connect with others and create something out of this world. As a connector, Jeff meets students and families where they are and builds trust in meaningful ways like playing chess with a student during meetings to help them open up, or sharing iced coffee with a parent as they talk all about homeschooling. As a creator, Jeff has expanded what we thought of AI and used it to design individualized unit studies tailored to his students' skills, goals, and interests. And he learned everything he could about Monday.com to build systems that now streamline the work we do across our academy. At the heart of it all, Jeff's enthusiasm is contagious and makes everyone around him feel inspired. And just on a personal note, adding to that, when I was thinking about this, the other thing that's contagious, Jeff, is your high expectations. You have this personal touch, and you're incredibly creative in finding a way to meet students where they're at, but you also hold them to incredibly high standards, and they believe and their families believe that they can meet those standards because of your work. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was awesome. I can, do amazing things now today. I'm fueled.
Jeff, can you tell us about your journey to Elite?
Oh my gosh. So this is actually only my fifth year in TK through 12 teaching. Prior to this, I worked at a church as a pastor for 9 years. I taught adjunct at a university level for 9 years. And then the pandemic hit and, caused me to reconsider everything in life and decided I wanted to go back and be a school teacher. Went into the classroom and the first year I was actually at a virtual school. Then second year I went to the classroom. And then I was like, I like the virtual world better. And then I found Elite and I'm never leaving.
I think we all feel like that. We're never leaving. So, Jeff, can you tell us in what ways do you see AI reshaping the role of teachers in the classroom?
Yeah. So thanks for getting me that question ahead of time because I wrestled with it and I wrestled with it. AI is, I don't think just reshaping the role of teachers. I think it's going to reshape education as we know it. And as a history person, just bear with me here, right? So about in early 1800s, the Industrial Revolution hit. And then public school systems began to emerge. But it wasn't until the early 1900s that it became a national expectation. And that was also around the time of the Great Depression when people were so desperate for work, they do the work of a child. So we created an education system based off the factory model. The bell rings, you go to work. The bell rings, you take a break. The bell rings, you go to lunch, and so our schools model early factories in that. And the teacher's role in that was to manage them, to relay the information. And so I see the role of a teacher shifting because I could see the whole role of how we do education shifting, because it's going to change. The teacher is no longer going to be the main person to give the information, right? We're able to use these AI tools to really meet students where they are, give them personalized and custom information. So the teacher is going to be more of the facilitator, more of the puzzle master in education than the main content deliverer. At least that's my opinion.
So we have teachers' role shifting. What does that mean for students? What might effective teacher use of AI mean for the students' overall learning journey? What's this looking like now for our kids?
So let me just use the one class I'm working on right now as an example. I have used different assessments. So our school has assessments. I've also used different assessment. In this class, I have students writing at grade level, slightly below grade level, but also four, five, six grade levels ahead of where they're at. And if I were to just deliver content as the standards, and the state standards tell me to, I would be delivering right at grade level. I would not be able to personalize and meet those students where they are. So what this is allowing me to do is those who are a little bit behind, I'm allowed to support them and give them the scaffolding to get to where we would like to see them. And those who are ahead, I'm allowed to just fuel them and let them keep going. Um, but I can do it in a way that I am still following those standards. It's going to allow me to differentiate. It's good. I'm going to know their learning styles. How do they learn? What is it that they're interested in? I can tie that in to it, and I don't have to know anything about skateboarding to connect a lesson to skateboarding. So it's opening the door to that. And so I'm the type of teacher that likes to engage the five senses and learning. And in the classroom, I was the type of teacher who would bring 100 pounds of sand and dump it on the floor when kids walked in because I wanted them to experience that. AI is allowing me to do that in a way that's equitable. So in a non-seat based school, um, we're going through in my humanities course, early humans, right? So we're going to look at the invention of farming from hunter gatherers to farming. So they're going to be cooking and eating. But I understand that not everyone is able to do that. So I could differentiate that. Well, if you can't actually make the meal through AI tools, right? Oh, you know what? What if you make a what do you call a recipe card? So it's changing it for them because it's going to tailor it to their interests, their personality, their skills, their gifting, and I think it's going to make learning come alive in ways
I
that
love that.
we haven't seen yet. Yeah.
As you're
Yeah. It
bringing learning to life through this personalization, like you referenced the like kind of the factory output that education had, and how we're creating really good stable factory workers. What are we creating now? What are these students? So you're meeting these students at various levels. What's happening for them after they're done with this style of learning?
Oh my gosh, they're excited. Like, can I show my classmates what I made? Or can I do this? And they're bringing tools to me that I've never even heard of. And they're like, can I use this instead? I'm like, I've never heard of that, but go for it. And I'm learning a lot. Like they are presenting things to me, and I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. I and my teacher brain and my, 15 years of teaching experience and my 30 something years of life experience could have never imagined this being a product of a lesson in my class. And it's incredible. So that's what I'm seeing, and I mean, I'm excited to assign work because I don't know what I'm going to get back.
That's like, so
Right.
we shift from this like punch the clock, get through the day feeling to this enthusiasm, this like general like enthusiasm about learning. And it's so exciting because those people that are excited about learning, who knows what they're going to do and go on and discover and create because now they have this kind of infectious um, reason to learn and to explore.
The exponential learning we talked about, right?
Yeah.
Elita. Yep. My next question, Jeff, is how you've touched on this, but if you could push in a little bit more, how can students use AI in ways that encourage curiosity and critical thinking rather than replace effort?
Yeah, so that's something that we still don't fully understand, right? We're still figuring this out. And I know there's science about the prefrontal cortex of the brain, right? We don't want to do too much AI, especially I think it's under the age of 25, right? Because that's the part of your brain that helps you organize and develop. So when I encourage AI, it's minimal for the students right now. I want to, until we know how to do it safely, right? We're not going to just let them get in a plane and fly it without them knowing how to fly a plane. But I also, the buzzword in education a few years ago was metacognition. And I really think that's important, right? Understanding the way you learn best, thinking about your thinking. And so, what I'm trying to do with my students is let's figure out your learning style. Let's help you become aware of who you are. I have a lot of self reflection. In fact, my whole historical unit was who are you? You're making a museum of who you are. I also am not shy to say, like, hey, this is some of the impacts, positive and negative, we're seeing. So, it's an open conversation because the reality is they know way more about AI and AI tools than I do. It's also fun to say, hey, was this made by AI or not? Make it a little like game or opener. They know a lot, and they know if something's AI or not AI. And so getting them to think about that why. And then there's a platform that I'm starting to use, and it doesn't answer their questions. Like if they say, or if they say, write me a thesis statement, and it won't. But if they say, how do I write a thesis statement, it will give them some prompts. And then if they put in a thesis statement, they can say, give me feedback on this, and it will, very Yoda-ish from Star Wars, ask you a question back. And so I think it's letting them see it that way. Is better than just saying, hey, go on, a large language model and ask it to write your paper for you. Like telling them that's not the way to go.
Following up with that, you've answered this a little bit already, but in what role should teachers play in helping students develop responsible and thoughtful approaches to AI? I feel like you've touched on that a little already.
Yeah. I think when with that question, the image that comes to mind is like an airport, right? So our students are flying the airplanes, but the teachers, we're the ones on the ground with the little cones guiding them. We're the one in the air traffic control tower telling them when it's safe to take off, safe to land, or there's lightning strikes, stay grounded. Um, so I think it's our job to be their safety net with that, to set the parameters, to set the ground rules. But I think if we try to hold their hand through everything, it's going to slow it down for them, and it's going to create friction. Um, so I try to, if I am going to use AI in a class, I will limit it, and I will always say with parent, guidance. Because in my case, it's middle school and some high school that I'm working with, um, and it's a even with my own kids, is like I will do AI with them because I don't know what rabbit hole they're going to go down. So as far as teachers, we got to be that safety net. We got to be the, air traffic controllers, the people with the cones on the ground that are guiding them to, safely navigate their way.
I get an image in
Well,
my head of a somebody going down a hill on a skateboard, but you gave them the skateboard and you're like, go down the hill now. And it's like, oh, wait. I should have put up guardrails. Okay, hold on to the guardrails while you're going down the skateboard down the hill. I feel like I feel like that's part of a little bit of the nervousness of the educator or just myself to be like, whoa, wait. I need to know 5 steps ahead before I say or introduce anything to them. But then it changed overnight. So the 5 steps ahead that I thought I knew, I don't know now anymore. So it's that constant thinking.
yeah, it's the speed at which this
Yeah.
technology is evolving, and we're having to adapt. And kids have like access to technology at a level that's unprecedented. So we're having to adapt alongside them, which creates a really dynamic relationship for us with like students and technology. But I'm glad that we have incredibly thoughtful and smart people like Jeff starting these conversations so that we can work together to figure out what does safe AI look like for our students? How can teachers utilize it best? Um, Thank you so much, Jeff. I do want to ask, what is your why on a personal level? What's your why, Jeff?
As an educator, why am I doing this? It's because I've had amazing, amazing adults, teachers, um, kind of spiritual leaders who just came around and supported me and didn't ever tell me what they wanted me to be. They just wanted me to be the best version of myself. And so that is why I want to do this. I want to help students become the best versions of themselves. And my bias to that is and realize that history is really cool because I'm a history teacher. So I gotta, gotta do that.
Thank you so much for being here, Jeff. This has been like such an awesome conversation. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like e-bikes, like right, we're like we're in it with e-bikes. Kids are driving e-bikes, and we're like, oh my gosh, we need some rules and boundaries around this.
Yeah.
That's what that was kind of making me think about. But I love it. It's the antithesis to the factory assembly education style. I like that comparison you made earlier. So thank you so much for being here. This has been great.
Thanks, Jeff.
But the e-bikes does fit because I remember when they first came out, I remember kids like crossing 3 lanes of traffic to get to their turn. And I'm like, somebody has to have a rule book. They have to go through something before they can get on these e-bikes because they're little. I felt they're like,
And they're getting mowed down. Like I've heard, I was in the x-ray room with my daughter like a year ago, and they said they're seeing so many kids, ERs and stuff because of e-bike accidents because they're out there and they're basically like little motorcycles. And they don't
Bike.
have a driver's license.
The e-bike
What's
was
that?
the motorized scooters before. Remember the
Yeah,
motorized scooters? So the e-bike is just a new version of that. Like it's
yeah,
just
or yeah, and
nothing's
motorized
new.
skateboards too. Like, yeah, I just saw a kid eat it on a
Oh
motorized
yeah.
skateboard, like
Ugh.
going down the road. Yeah. Jeff, though, like coming back to our conversation, I love the historical context that you brought to this conversation because that is the big thing. And we've been like but even before AI, for like as long as I've been a teacher, like there have been that group of teachers that have been like, hey, like this is an outdated model, but it is so huge. Like the educational system is so huge. How do you change like such an like ingrained structure? And this feels like the beginning of like the possibility of like potentially real change, moving away from that
Yeah.
industrial model. Because we've been talking about this for years. Like we're not making factory workers anymore. Like why does
Right.
a high school still feel that way?
I think that's where the charter movement's really going to come in because,
Yeah.
I mean, I just read about a school in Orange County, Florida, a district. They're actually paying consulting and marketing teams to market their public school because parents are choosing not to go to that
Oh,
school and go to.
Yeah,
yeah.
we didn't
But
I
as
didn't want them in the institutional setting that I grew up in. You know, I just
but
didn't
yeah,
want that.
our district, same thing. Like you see it on like billboards, like flyers in a way that you never saw it when we were kids. Because it was just went to the school down your street. Like it wasn't a choice.
Jeff, when you were
Yeah.
talking earlier about the AI you were using, were you talking about school AI in when they're saying
Uh,
like write me a thesis
The bot.
statement? Yeah.
no, writing coach.
Oh, writing coach.
Oh.
Academy as
Okay.
writing coach. I have very minimal experience with school AI. I'm not excited about it yet.
Uh,
Most of the stuff I do is free because, I'm a teacher.
uh,
I have to ask Jeff, do you know of Sir Ken Robinson?
I love
Uh,
him.
yeah,
yep.
I was like, oh, Jeff sounds like a big Sir Ken Robinson fan.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was feeling all of that.
He
Yeah,
he has the most standing ovations in any TED Talk ever.
yeah. I could
does
see
he?
that. Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's amazing. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah. Schools kill
it's
creativity.
yeah.
He's right. Then there's one called Out School, and it's a
Yeah.
TEDx talk, and it's a kid whose mom fell in love with what Sir Ken Robinson did,
Hmm.
and he was telling his journey about how he does out school or not out school, unschool.
Unschool.
And so he talked about unschooling and how, like, as a middle schooler, he got an internship at a snowboard shop or something like that, making
Yeah.
snowboards, and he learned finance and math and
Yeah.
business and all. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you give kids real meaningful context, they learn, right?
Yep.
If they're grounded in a real context that is meaningful to them, they learn. And you don't have to force it. You don't have to like it's not pulling teeth and
and
like all
and
this
it's
extra. Yeah.
exponential. It's
Yeah.
like the exponential learning because they're invested and they
Yeah.
care and it matters to them.
And
So
there's something special, I think, about the non-seat based world because they can be more comfortable where they're at.
Hmm.
So, like my
yes,
humanities class, they were doing figurative language and early humans, right? So they had to write a poem. They had to create a persona that they're going to do the rest of the unit in based off of what they've learned about early humans. Then they had to make a image of that persona. And so some are painting, some are doing AI. And then they had to this week write a poem using figurative language. And then they have to recite it and film it and send it in. And what I have seen from these kids is like, I would never see it in a classroom, or I
Hmm.
would very rarely see it in a classroom. So there's something just magical about that. And they're like, "Can I use Procreate?" I'm like, "I don't know what that is, but if it's appropriate and your parents are good with it, go for it." Like,
No, and
yeah,
there's like you said they're comfortable and like it's really important that kids get social opportunities and get out there and get those different opportunities. But I will say the comfort thing's real. Like we have so many students who in that setting were escalated like all day, fight or flight all day. And when you're like
yep,
experiencing that level of anxiety, like even if you want to, you're just not available for it. And
exactly. You don't have
now, yeah,
access.
and now they're in a situation where they're de-escalated, they're feeling safe, they're feeling calm, they can learn, and then you can kind of like push and find other avenues for that social integration.
And I feel like the social or like having them in a group because Jeff, for For us three as SAIs, usually our sessions historically have been one-on-one. In the last couple of years, we've moved more towards having group sessions, and we are really seeing the benefit socially as well for our students. But one thing I wanted to say is that now, in coming off of what Nolan said about they don't have to worry about the fight or flight, but now it's freeing up those spaces in their brain, so to speak. But now they're sharing tools like what you just said, like, can I use Procreate? I don't know what that is, but I feel like the students are sharing ways to think.
When I don't believe in tests, like anything that's standardized is not appropriate, other than maybe benchmarks. And so, people are like, well, how do you know they're not using AI? And I'm like, well, if you use AI well enough, you know when they're using AI.
Mm-hmm.
But by making everything personal, and then, to who they are, having reflection in there, letting it be them, they're not going to want to cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that ChatGPT, M dash, and any assignment I see it
Oh
in,
yeah.
right? I will call them out
Yeah.
on that, and it's like, hey, it looks like you might have used this for some editing. Let's make sure. But even when I saw in a recent assignment, it wasn't like that they just had AI type it for them. It was they put all their thoughts in there and let it formulate it.
Yeah, we've been talking just behind the scenes. We were like, we need like someone to come on and have a conversation about AI. Jeff is our guy, trust me. Like, and
So
it
I
has been
this
like it's changed my instruction. I was like I was nervous. Like I'm like sci-fi geek. Like you're a history guy. I'm a sci-fi geek. So like sci-fi movies, it never ends well with AI. Always a bad ending for
Right.
people. So I had that kind of lens. But like I have been using it to efficiently personalize instruction, and it's something that now I do something in 2 minutes that would have taken like 40 minutes the night before. And now it's like 2 minutes before a session. And the
Yeah.
kids like are like, oh my God, like the other day I was like, oh, you guys are gonna design a Roblox game today. Like, and like that was something like what I was like, AI, I want to like prompts for designing a Roblox game. What's that look like? Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Whereas like before it would have taken me like an hour the night before. And 2 minutes, and I go in, and the kid
Yep.
like I just say the lesson, and the kids are like, "Yeah,
but it still takes you knowing them, right? And
yeah,
facilitating.
Reading material has been so specialized lately for students. It's been
yeah,
awesome. Like I had a student reading about the very short history of fidget spinners yesterday, and I
yeah,
did that in like 2 minutes using I used
yeah."
Diffit
I would have
for
read
Yeah.
that
that.
one. But
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
not just like it's not just the interest, it's like you can change the level. Like cuz before Google, I could comb through Google and find like, oh, here's a book or here's an article or here's a read aloud about this subject, but it might be inappropriate for them cuz it's too young, or it might be like out of their reading range. But now I can be like, I want it at this reading level, but for this age.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
So
it
you could
is
also
awesome.
take, like, I'm having my high school students read Plato, Aristotle, John Locke, all these, original doc. But what I did is I put the doc into AI and I said, make this a one-page student-friendly guide. I said, make it modern language, but don't simplify or dumb it down.
Yeah.
And so I got this
Yes.
really concise Cliff Note version to where I can talk about Plato, Aristotle, and they can understand it. But I also linked the original document.
Oh my gosh. All right, so many takeaways for me. First of all, just that historical context, that right, I mean, it's just it really, you begin to see an avenue for real change through
But
Yeah,
when
I would
Jeff brought that up about
the
the factory model, that came about because it was and necessary for the economy, for the nation. It was necessary not just for a small pocket of people, right? Globally, it was necessary. So I feel like now the AI is forcing that kind of change again. Like through the nation, through worldwide, that we have to change the model, just like we had to change the model then. And so that's why this time is like, oh, I think it will actually happen this time.
like Sir Ken Robinson's thing was that like kids were on like the product on a conveyor belt, and every grade we would add a new piece to the
Right.
assembly line product. But what Jeff is saying is like AI, we don't need we're not managing large groups of people in this setting, in
Mm-mm.
the homeschool setting, and that we can completely customize their education and their level of learning for them, using AI as a tool to do it efficiently and cater to their interests. Yeah, no more assembly line.
we have one final question for you, and that is, what is your why? Please let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.